Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'd like to talk about Doctor Who once again, relating to that great topic of great companions that never were in the history of Doctor Who. And whereas usually I'm talking about background characters, actors or actresses that for one reason or another always stood out to me in the history of Doctor Who, the televised series, with this particular choice, I'm going to actually switch things up quite a bit. This is a character that has, for all intents and purposes, been an established character in the Eighth Doctor audio adventures, and possibly other areas, I'm not entirely sure. But that is to say, the great-grandson of the Doctor himself, Alex Campbell, the son of his granddaughter, Susan. This is a character I find absolutely fascinating. I haven't really experienced any of the audio adventures because I really can't come by them. Whether I can't afford them or I don't have the means to download or find them on, CD and everything like that. So I've had to kind of, learn about this character through reading up on things and looking through archives online and in books that I have and stuff like that. And I find the character of Alex Campbell fascinating in that we find out, essentially, for those who aren't familiar with, Susan Foreman post the Dalek invasion of Earth, she was left behind on Earth in the 2150s. She married the cat, I forget his first name, but something Campbell, that she started having a romantic fascination with in that story. And they later had a child who was largely said to be more human genetically than Time Lord or Gallifreyan. He only had one heart. He didn't have any regeneration capability, that kind of stuff. And there's a point where, the father dies and Alex becomes rebellious, from what I understand. He joined some, youth groups, rebel groups and stuff like that against the United Earth in that time. And eventually, due to maybe an alien invasion or something, he meets his grandfather and is kind of, just given this awe and wonder down on his doorstep. But what's very fascinating to me is when offered the chance to travel the universe with his grandfather, the Eighth Doctor, he turns it down. He'd rather stay by his mother's side, and, I don't know exactly whether that translates to his being protective of his mother, wanting to be there for her, or just being sort of world-weary about being out and about in the universe. What's fascinating, though, is eventually the Doctor catches up with him again, and it's fascinating to me because we had The Night of the Doctor that aired as the prequel to The Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special as of the time of this recording, several months ago. And Paul McGann's, reprisal, which was absolutely fantastic, to steal the Ninth Doctor's catchphrase, it was like so many years had passed in the wink of an eye, and he just owned that role like he never left it. And of course, he's been doing that character in the audio plays and stuff like that for several years, so it's natural that he would. But what I found interesting was, toward the end of that piece, you have him sort of issuing the soliloquy to several of his companions in the audio adventures. I think Charlie Pollard was one. I don't know if he mentions Lucy Miller, but Lucy is a companion who traveled with he and Alex once he eventually won Alex over to the idea of traveling. And in a story that I think vaguely, I haven't experienced the story myself, listened to it. I have to go based on information I've gotten. If I have any of this wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments below. But in a story that I believe involved the meddling monk and the Daleks, or the Daleks, I should say, essentially you had Lucy and Alex losing their lives. And I don't know how much of these stories is actually canonized, because a lot of us are taking it for granted that now that, the Eighth Doctor has mentioned all these companions from the audio adventures, that all of these audio adventures are suddenly all canonized. I think it's arguable as to whether which ones are and which ones aren't, because of course there are going to be contradictory ones and such like that. And I think it's very interesting, the idea of having this character who has a familial tie to the Doctor, and one that relates to Susan. It would be a perfect opportunity to see Carol Ann Ford one last time on screen, perhaps regenerating herself, perhaps passing away, who knows, as Susan. It would be preferable to see her regenerating and having a life off in the universe somewhere, but the idea of having a very human sort of great-grandson that is somewhat rebellious, that doesn't want to listen to authoritarians, especially in the vein of the Doctor. And, you know, I just think that would be a brilliant dynamic to have in the TARDIS again, something that really relates to the heart of the Doctor, or the hearts of the Doctor. And from what I've read, what I understand, you know, there was a point where Alex was going to be given the TARDIS by the Doctor. I mean, he had that much sort of, you know, faith in his familial ties, apparently, in the audio adventures to get to that point. But rather, Alex decided to travel the world, the, you know, I guess futuristic Earth with Lucy Miller, you know, before their ultimate demise, as I already referenced. And, you know, it makes me wonder what kind of story mileage you could get out of that if you add this character to the TARDIS and its many adventures. If you have a character that is a family of the Doctor, would he be more overprotective? Would he be less wanting to, you know, sort of run into trouble and stuff like that, which we've seen him do with other companions? Would he be overly protective, especially in this, you know, well, Gallifrey is seemingly back out there somewhere. It's still in existence, but it's not fully back in any case. And without the Time Lords being freed as yet, how interesting, how fascinating would that be if, you know, it was the Doctor and just his great-grandson? So even if this character didn't have fully all of these genetic lines and ties to Time Lord physiology and stuff like that, even if he was more human, it still would beg the question in my mind. We could really get an idea of the Doctor's psyche, see it put through the ringer, especially with this character who, you know, in his great-grandson's form, would go rushing off into trouble the way he would in his youth and stuff like that. And I just find this all absolutely fascinating, this character, thinking that the Doctor has further family out there, something we really haven't, you know, explored in the 50 years the Doctor who's been around. And that is good to a point because it keeps up the mystery of the character, but I still have to go back to that end-all be-all question for me. Why did the Doctor run away from Gallifrey? Why did he leave his family behind, yet only take his granddaughter? Were they all gone? Were they all dead? I think likely not. You know, he probably left a wife, you know, children behind and stuff like that, his parents even. And it's just absolutely compelling to me, that idea. The idea of the Doctor's family, how much family was there? Did he really lose them pre-Time War? Did they get lost in the Time War? And I think we could investigate all of that, at least at the periphery, with a character who is his own kin. You know, again, Alex Campbell, the great-grandson of the Doctor himself. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you're more familiar with the audio adventures that this character appears in or not, whether you think this would have been a fascinating addition to travels in time and space with the Doctor, and whether stories could have come out of this that would have been very interesting, intriguing, you know, emotional, stuff like that. And yeah, so otherwise that'll be it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.